Okay, members, the last bill on today's calendar will be Representative Reeder's bill. The gentleman is recognized to speak to Senate Bill 631.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm here to ask for your support for Senate Bill 631, which would prohibit public health care facilities and state funds from being used for gender transition surgeries and hormones on minors. This is a common sense bill that seeks to prevent these unproven treatments on minors. It's not an attempt to limit treatment for children suffering from gender dysphoria or from those who are struggling for their identity. Rather, it seeks to limit children from potentially life-altering treatments before they are truly able to understand and consent to these interventions. This bill is narrowly defined just to limit those interventions in state-owned and affiliated institutions and prohibit state funds for them. It's not right to use state resources for unproven medical interventions that this would prohibit. It does allow patients who need hormones for medical conditions, for physiologic conditions, to have hormones and to have surgery. So it doesn't ban that if it's medically indicated. It doesn't prevent, if someone does go through a gender reassignment surgery and they have complications, which happens, it doesn't prevent those surgeries to happen. And it doesn't prevent the surgeries for physiologic conditions. That's the main part of Section 1. Section 2, there's a federal court order right now that that allows state health plan to pay for these treatments. If that court decision was overturned, then it would prohibit that. Stand for questions.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the bill? Representative Dahl, ladies recognized.
So, if I have a disease, which I don't know what the disease is, that I need to take puberty blockers. However, I also voice in a doctor's office that I'm questioning my gender. Which one wins?
If you have a physiological condition, congenital adrenal hyperplasia is probably what you're most commonly referring to. That would not be prohibited in this bill. So it says for those medical conditions, physiologic conditions that have biochemical, those things are still allowed.
Well, and if the lady will make sure that the gentleman's finished, and the chair will do this in an orderly manner. So is the gentleman finished with his answer? Yes. Representative Dahl, the lady's recognized.
So I'm really confused why, number one, I'm confused why we need this, because I don't understand why we're legislating health care. And people, people can go to, we just heard a bill and passed a bill about people going to alternative doctors, but now we're going to shut down health care for a group of people from state hospitals. I'm just trying to understand why we need this and what the issue is.
Representative Reeder, does the gentleman wish to be recognized? The gentleman's recognized.
This does not shut down health care. It still allows in the treatment of minors. What we do know is that hormones have not been shown to be beneficial for this condition. The gender reassignment surgery, there is not any real long-term data on the treatment of this. And so it's a treatment that some people are using that has not been shown to be effective. And so that's what this bill prevents.
Representative Torbett.
Thank you, Don. I've got a question for you. I hear this battle back and forth. Can you give me an idea of what the medical profession says is the age when a brain finally reaches its full maturity?
So,
Gentleman's recognized.
So I'm an emergency physician, so I'm not as smart as many of my other physician colleagues. It is certainly not completely formed under age 18. Age 18 is when the law says that you're able to consent for them. We know that brain development goes on many years after that. But the law as defined is at age 18, you are allowed to do with your body what you like. And that's what the law has defined.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Reeder, my questions are not meant to be provocative at all, because I'm still learning even as we go through this process. Does the state now provide funding for health care for its citizens for other, a myriad of other situations?
The gentleman's free to answer.
Yeah. I believe that the state pays for health care for all sorts of citizens. for all sorts of medical conditions.
Follow up.
The gentleman's recognized.
Would this bill then create a tiered system as to who could receive state-funded health care for a certain medical procedure?
This narrowly defined bill says that you can't use state resources for these specific treatments for gender dysphoria that have not been medically demonstrated to be beneficial.
Final follow-up.
Gentleman's recognized.
Does this bill step into a family situation? If the parent has agreed that this is going to happen and the family agrees with it. Again, I'm uneducated on this, but if the family has agreed that this is the route that they would like to take, and the state, and they don't have the funding to do this, then is the state not creating a discriminatory two-tiered system?
There was a couple questions baked in there, I think, and so let me try to get to them. This prevents state funding for these treatments that have not been shown to be medically beneficial. We don't allow parents to do things for their child that are harmful. And so even though the question's been raised, well, if the parents are able to dictate that, we don't allow parents to do things to their children that are potentially harmful. So we have all sorts of laws that prevent that. This doesn't prevent the patient, if they have insurance, to go to a non-state agency. So I don't believe that it creates a discriminatory effect. If the patients had to pay out of their pocket or their insurance covered it before, this just prevents this from going to a state agency or state entity, and we're not going to use state funds to pay for this kind of treatment that's not been shown to be effective over the long term.
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is just mostly comments. We, as a state, have made some distinctions. I sort of find it astounding that we're having this discussion of making these life-altering decisions for kids who are in their teens, when just 2 or 3 years ago we said we need to raise the juvenile age because the mental capacity is not fully developed. The mental capacity is not there for a person to fully understand the consequences of their action. So to let them take some kind of life-altering decision when we know that that's a time that they're not particularly mentally fully developed at this point, I don't think it's an unreasonable reach. I think we did it when we talked about raise the juvenile age. We decided these are a group that need our protection as a state. I don't think it's an unreasonable bill, and I certainly support you. Happy for a motion at the appropriate time.
Member Representative Dahl, ladies recognized.
So I'm really struggling with this, and you know I'm not going to vote for it. Yeah. I don't support it at all, but I'm struggling with how much money, how much state money do we spend right now on this? I don't think we spend any, do we?
Gentleman's recognized.
I can't tell you how much we spend, but I know that there is state funds that are being used for this purposes. But I don't have the number. I do not know.
Representative Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you were speaking, and we passed it out of health yesterday, as you were speaking, I addressed the issue about being born with both of the genitalia, and you clarified that that still would be covered. It's a carve-out in there. But I'm also struggling with this, is during the pandemic, we said parental rights. Parental rights. Let people choose to get their children vaccinated. We do property rights. It seems like we're taking more parental rights away. If it's my child and I'm going to pay the insurance to have the procedure done, then I should be able to do that. But now you're saying also that it's a federal case that may come back, and then you will put the provision in even if the federal come back and say it's okay, but we still not going to be allowed to do it. So that's going to add an additional burden to those families, because if they can't do it in this state, they're going to go somewhere else and do it. Because we've seen that with the seizures, with the children that had seizures. They left here because they couldn't get the medication. They went to Colorado where they could get the medication that the parents desired for their child. So my concern is that we're chipping away at parental rights. if the parent birthed them and they're supposed to be the responsible person to provide certain care and finances, wow. Thank you.
Representative Quick.
I just wanted to comment on what I think is the distinction between raise the age, which I fully support and agree with Representative Stevens that the capacity of young people to know exactly what they're doing is limited in the teenage years. The difference that I see between that and this is that, as Representative Cunningham just pointed out, these are often family decisions. So there has been adult supervision and adult guidance in these decisions. And so that makes it a little bit different from raised age, where a kid goes out and commits a juvenile crime on his own. Very rarely do we have children and their parents committing crimes together. It does happen, but very rarely does that happen. But in this instance, the distinction that I see is that often these are family decisions, and we are making a determinant between families who can afford it and families who can't afford it.
Representative Jones.
Dr. Reeder, if I was to take my daughter into the ER and just demand, because I hate right ears, I think you should cut my daughter's right ear off, because I'm the parent, do I really have the right to do that?
No.
For a motion, sir.
Members, is there any other discussion or debate? The chair does have one member of the public signed up. The chair is going to allow them to speak. But is there any other discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, the one member that the chair has signed up to speak is Liz Barber. And as always in the Rules Committee, the lady, if you will, approach this microphone. We allow 1 minute in this committee to speak. The lady is recognized to speak for up to 1 minute to the bill. If you will, state your name and if you're here on behalf of someone, who you're here on behalf of. Ladies recognized.
Good afternoon. Liz Barber, Senior Policy Counsel with ACLU of North Carolina. And I want to share with you all some words from Judge Moody. He is a federal district court judge in Arkansas. This ruling came down just yesterday. And again, I'm reading from his opinion. Rather than protecting children or safeguarding medical ethics, the evidence showed that the prohibited medical care improves the mental health and well-being of patients, and that by prohibiting it, the state undermined the interests it claims to be advancing. Further, the various claims underlying the state's arguments that the act protects children and safeguards medical ethics do not explain why only gender-affirming medical care and all gender-affirming medical care is singled out for prohibition. The testimony of well-credentialed experts, doctors who provide gender-affirming medical care in Arkansas, and families that rely on that care directly refute any claim by the state that the act advances an interest in protecting children. Then he goes on to talk about even setting aside the Equal Protection Clause, that it fails under the due process analysis, bringing up exactly what some of the representatives have discussed, and that's the parents' right and the parents' fundamental interests in the care, custody, and control of their children, and that it's perhaps the oldest fundamental liberty interest recognized by that court. And he cites other cases saying that the parent's substantive due process right to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of their children includes the right to direct children's medical care. This is one of 491 anti-LGBTQ bills moving across the country. It is one of 4 moving in this state house today. I ask you all to listen to science. I ask you all to choose love. I ask you all to vote no. Thank you.
Members, is there further discussion or debate on the bill? Representative Quick, gentleman's record.
My final question to Representative Reeder. If I, as a parent, came in and said that I wanted to have plastic surgery performed on my daughter's nose to get it refigured, could I, as a parent, be able to do that?
Gentleman's recognized.
I don't know how old your daughter is.
They're 30 and 31, and you don't have to worry about me telling them to do anything.
So I guess I would say is your daughters probably listen to you better than many do. If your daughter is of age, they can make the decisions. This is for minors. So let's be clear. This bill is directed at minors, so under age 18. Once you get to be 18, the law allows you to do whatever you want and whatever you can get a physician to do.
Representative Quick.
Yeah, but that's what my question was. If I wanted to bring my 14-year-old daughter in to get plastic surgery performed on her nose, and we agreed that that's what we wanted to do, could I, as a parent, make that decision?
If there was a medical need, if she had a deviated septum, she couldn't breathe, I think that, I'm not a plastic surgeon, but I think it would be hard to find a plastic surgeon to say, we're going to do a purely cosmetic procedure on a 14-year-old when there's no medical indication.
Thank you.
Members, further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Jones and Representative Stevens move for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill receives a favorable report. Members, there being no further business before the committee is now adjourned.